guys, it's Eugenia. So today I'm going to be doing a video that's kind of like a beginner's makeup tutorial kind of thing. I saw on my last video I had a lot of like comments, and it was one of the top comments like requesting me to do that, so I thought today I would. Hope you guys wouldn't be mad that I'm making this video, because I'm definitely, by making this video, not trying to claim that I'm like a makeup like expert or anything like that, but I guess this is just kind of like things that I think are helpful with makeup and things that I think may be helpful if you're kind of like wanting to get into makeup or beginning. I guess I'll just try to make this kind of like a step-by-step thing and try to make it like as easy as I possibly can for you guys. Before I start, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I know that I have like this little like red mark on my face right now, so sorry about my skin right there today. That's definitely not normally there. It's not really a zit. Like, I honestly don't know what it is, but I mean, it kind of feels like one, but like not really. Sorry that is on my face today. I know that probably looks like really gross and like not too nice to look at, but yeah, what can I do, you know? So anyways, I guess I'm just gonna go right ahead and start, and yeah. So first thing I'm gonna do, I don't really know if this is like the best time to use a lip balm or if this is like what you're supposed to do, but this is just kind of like what I'll do a lot. This one is like my favorite. This is the Shane and Jeffree lip balm here. It's Diet Shane. It's super, super good. And I feel like it always just makes my lips feel really nice and really like moisturized and everything. Alright, so I'm gonna be starting with face makeup today. Oh my gosh, guys, this like little mark here is so obnoxious and so annoying. By the time that I'm done doing face makeup, that will probably hopefully be covered and you won't have to see that. Before I put on my foundation and like start putting on all the face makeup, I always start by putting on some moisturizer, and I think this is just good to do like underneath your makeup to just like keep your skin like hydrated and moisturized and everything. Okay, so next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna prime my face. And when you're doing makeup, I always feel like using primer is a good idea, because like with your foundation, it will like just kind of make it last longer. I think also it can kind of help with like if you have pores showing and things like that, which I don't really think I get too much of it. I just get that thing there. But yeah, I think like it can be really good for that, and just kind of like making sure that your makeup like stays on a long time. So what I'm using is, this is one of my favorite primers. This is the Tatcha Silk Canvas Primer. I think this is a really good primer. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of like dip into this, and I just kind of like use it like as needed, I guess, and I just kind of like rub it between my fingers a bit and then just kind of like apply it. And I think there's also certain sections of your face that are supposedly like the most important sections to prime. I think kind of like the high points and stuff, I think. Kind of like right in there, and then I think the nose, and I don't know, but I just put it all over my face, so that's what I do. Alright, so next thing I'm gonna do now is actually start with the foundation. And to apply foundation, what I always like to use is kind of like a beauty blender or like a makeup sponge. So that's what I'm gonna use, is just like this sponge today. And big thank you to ColourPop actually, because they were nice enough to send me in the mail. I got this yesterday. It says the Full Beat. This is actually a bunch of different like blending makeup sponges that do all different things. There's a velvet, a detail, an hourglass, a complexion, and what I'm using today is a silicone, which is really good because this like keeps it from absorbing too much product, so that way your makeup products last longer. What I'm going to be using today is the Tom Ford Flawless Glow Foundation. So what I'll do is just kind of put like a little bit of foundation kind of like on my hand, basically. I'll just kind of like tap it into the beauty blender, and then, or the makeup sponge, I guess this is technically a sponge. And then I'll just kind of start like putting it on my face. And I like to go pretty lightly because I find that that way it doesn't like get too cakey or anything. So I'll just kind of lightly just like tap it on my face. I love this foundation, but this red mark is just like so obnoxious. Like, oh, I feel like it's still kind of showing through the foundation, so I'm really sorry. I think I'm also gonna take a bit of my Luminous Silk Armani foundation and see if that does any better, kind of like mixing that in. Okay. Alright, so the next step that I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be using concealer. And the concealer that I'm using is the Jeffree Star Magic Star Concealer. I really, really love this concealer. So anyways, so with concealer, like what I'll usually do is just kind of like put it like on like, I guess like the high points of my face, I think is where what this is called. So I'll just kind of put it a bit like below my eye. I wonder if this would help cover that. Then I go on my nose, and I kind of go on my chin a bit, and then I just kind of go also right on my forehead. And for me, like what I mostly use this for is kind of like as like a highlight kind of thing. I also am of course gonna put actual highlighter on too, but this is actually a bit lighter than my foundation. I kind of feel like gives your face like this cool like brightening effect. Then I just kind of also use a beauty blender to blend that into my skin. After that, I'm just gonna be kind of like setting that in. To do that, I use this Jeffree Star powder here. Doing this also to just kind of keep like concealer, I think, from like getting creasy. So I guess this next part, you wanna like try to work pretty quickly. You still want to try to use like your beauty blender, still kind of damp. And then you just kind of like press that right until the areas where you put concealer in to just kind of like set everything. I personally kind of find that with this step, going lighter tends to work better. I don't know, sometimes I find if I press too hard, if the sponge is like too wet, it will kind of almost like start like removing product and just kind of making things look like messier, almost like there's like holes in my makeup or something. Then kind of like for the rest of my face, I'll just kind of grab like a kind of like fluffy brush. It says it's a Bliss powder brush. For this, I'll just kind of like take some more powder, just kind of like put that around the brush, and then I'll just kind of like lightly go over my face in the sections that I haven't really put powder on yet. Next step that I'm going to be doing is contour makeup. Another kind of cool thing that you can do, because I know like if you're new to makeup, like buying a lot of makeup could be really expensive and may definitely not be really realistic for everybody to do. You can do this with like blushes, you can do this with contour makeup, you could even probably do this with like highlighter and stuff. You can actually also just use like eyeshadows. Like actually, here's an example, like the Conspiracy palette, which is like, I love this palette, it's so good. It's like my favorite palette. You could use the shade Tanacon as a contour. I do that sometimes and it works like really good as a contour. Also like as blush, the shade Pigment, I feel like works really good. It might seem like kind of a lot to just go buy like a ton of makeup and buy a ton of products. So I just thought that was something that like could be helpful. So anyways, but today I'm gonna be using the Anastasia Contour Powder Kit. What I'll kind of do is like mostly use these two shades here and just kind of like lightly like dip into these. After you do that, because you can always, the thing is you can always dip in for more. So I kind of feel like it's always better to just like start later. I kind of start by like the top of my ear and I kind of think like to this point, like the starting point of my lip, like of like a line there, sort of, if that makes any sense. So then I'll just kind of like lightly take that and start blending it into my skin. I know it looks very harsh right now, but after you blend it, it looks a lot better, I think. It just kind of like gives your skin like some more dimension and stuff. Just kind of like lift that upwards and just like keep blending it until it starts to look more natural. And how you want to do that is like super up to you. Like if you want to kind of go more in, if you want like a heavier contour, then you can. If you want to just kind of more keep it like minimal and kind of just keep it more going upwards, you can do that. Like I guess it's just really like what kind of look you're going for and what you want to do. And by the way, the brush I'm doing this with is just like a double-sided Sephora brush. I really like this brush. I don't know if they actually still make this or not, but it's really nice because it comes with like a contour side and then a highlight side. You can really use like whatever kind of contour you brush you like. I'm sure there's also other brushes you could substitute, but yeah, I think like pretty much any contour brush should do the job. Then I'll kind of also start kind of blending that up into like my temple area here and kind of start going towards my hairline and just like contouring in there. You also can kind of go kind of like below your jawline a bit to just kind of make that look a bit more defined. Yeah, and it just kind of like adds shadows and stuff and makes your skin look kind of less flat, like a little more dimensional and stuff. So yep, that's why we're doing this. I'm also gonna do a little bit of nose contour. With that, I just kind of like lightly took some of the lightest shade in here and I'm just gonna kind of like start putting a small line right on my nose here and just kind of like lightly blending that in. Not doing anything too crazy with this. I'm actually also just using like an eyeshadow brush for this part. I just find it's like a lot easier and more precise. Just using like a smaller kind of like eyeshadow brush or whatever kind of brush you prefer that's like smaller. Also, I'm using this other side of this brush to just kind of like blend this in better. And another thing you can do is I think almost kind of start like blending it into your eye almost, because it just kind of I think makes it look like more natural blend that way. And then I'm just going to take this a bit below my nose too. I'm also going to be putting a little bit of blush on, and for blush, I'm using the Sailor Moon ColourPop blush. This shade is From the Moon. It's just kind of like a bright pink. You obviously don't have to use one like this bright. Like that's completely up to you guys, what you want to use. I don't really know if you're supposed to do this, but I don't really have, I think, like a set like blush brush really. So I just kind of also use my contour brush and like dip into this. And then I'll just kind of start putting that like on my cheek. I kind of like to try to blend it like backwards personally, and just kind of go back and forth. And I like to just kind of try to blend this like upwards to just give your face like a nice like lifted look kind of. This is of course like an optional step, but something I like to do that I just kind of think looks cute is I like to put a little blush on my nose sometimes. And for that, I'm actually using a different ColourPop Sailor Moon blush. This one is Cat's Eye, and this one's just kind of a little lighter. It also has like a little bit of sparkle, which hopefully you guys can see that. I'm just gonna kind of put that like a bit on my nose. I'm gonna do a little bit of highlighter, well, probably a good amount of highlighter. So to do that, I'm gonna be going back to my Anastasia palette. And here, I'm gonna be using these two shades here, just kind of like a mix of these. I'm just kind of gonna highlight like right above where I put the blush, like in that area, kind of also going a little into my forehead. I'm also going to highlight my forehead itself right there. I'm gonna highlight my chin a bit with this, and this is just kind of like a light highlight. You could stop here if you want. You could also use like light eyeshadow shades for this also, guys. Like really just like, I think you can be creative with makeup, and just because something's like an eyeshadow or if it's a blush, you can also use blush as an eyeshadow. You know, like you can technically like use products as like different makeup products. You could even use like a liquid lip as an eyeliner. I do that sometimes. Then I'm also gonna take some of that a bit on my nose. Where I did like my contour and blush and all that, I will usually kind of go like a bit below like where my cheekbone is. And I will just kind of try to almost like clean that up, taking this like highlight shade again. And I just kind of feel like that makes it look nicer and a little cleaner and stuff. So I feel so bad. I was like super stupid a long time ago, and I accidentally, like you guys can probably see, so I'm gonna try to be more careful, but I accidentally like cracked my Jeffree Star Brain Freeze palette. So I love this highlight palette. I'd probably buy a new one soon. It's just like I have to try to be careful right now because I was stupid enough to drop it. Now it's like very fragile, sadly. And I'm gonna just be taking a couple of different highlight shades. I'm gonna use the shade today, I think Frozen Fruit, which is like this pink-ish highlight. I'm just gonna kind of like highlight right above where I put the blush. I just kind of take that in and keep going back and forth with that. And this just kind of makes your face look nice and gives it like a nice shine. I'm also going to be going into the shade, I want to be so careful with this, but the shade Cold Shoulder right there, which is like this cool kind of like white-ish shade. Cold Shoulder, like the name just fits it. Like it kind of is like very like, I feel like cool tone kind of, and almost has like a blue in it sort of. Like, I don't know, it's really pretty. Because I'm putting that kind of on my forehead and just like a tiny bit in my chin. And the way that I like to highlight my nose, I'm gonna be using Frozen Fruit to like begin this. A lot of people don't do this, and you don't have to do it this way. Like it's really just like up to you. But I'll kind of like to highlight like kind of the whole bridge of my nose. Just kind of go up and down with that. And then I kind of like to give like an extra highlight. For that, I'm going to be going into Cold Shoulder again. And I like to highlight like the tip of my nose and just kind of like really focus things there. And then also like the beginning of the bridge to my nose, I like to put a little bit more of a heavy highlight on there. And I'm gonna actually be making this even heavier. And then I also like to put a little bit like kind of on my Cupid's bow area. So like right above my lip. I just feel like this looks really pretty. Then I'm gonna be using my Jeffree Star Extreme Frost highlighter. And this is the new one, Choking on Ice. I've been really loving this one. And this one is like a purple highlight. Just kind of make it look extra shiny and cool. I'll kind of just like press that onto my face. Then use like another finger to kind of like blend that. I also like to kind of start highlighting a bit into like my temple area, going into my forehead. Also just gonna take this a bit on like the tip of my nose, again, right here. And right on the top of the bridge there. And then also the Cupid's bow make things like extra shiny. Next, I'm gonna be starting on one of my favorite parts of makeup, which is eye makeup. All right, so I thought I would go ahead and just do like one eye, since I'm pretty much just gonna do like the same thing on the other eye. So it's just like a pretty like easy eyeshadow look that I did that I think is really cool. Like I think it looks cool. I'll just kind of, I guess, like walk you guys through the steps that I did to do this kind of quickly. This is just, I guess, kind of like how you can do like one look, and also just kind of a little bit about like blending and brushes and all of that. So first thing that I'm gonna start by doing is just taking a little bit of eye primer. If you want to save a little bit of money, if you already have a concealer, you could also just use a concealer as an eye primer because they work pretty similarly. But today I'm going to be using like an actual eye primer, and what I'm using is the Urban Decay Primer Potion. I'm just going to put this a bit on my lid and just kind of like blend this on my eye. And what this will do is just kind of make it so your eyeshadows will show up even more vibrantly, and will also just make them last longer. I definitely think like having good brushes can make it so it just makes such a world of difference with your eye makeup. You don't have to have like a ton or anything like that, but just having like a couple that work really well for you and that you like is just like really helpful. What I'm using for brushes are the Jeffree Star Morphe brushes. These I love. I find that these are really great for eye makeup looks, and I don't know, I just really love these brushes. So today I'm going to be using the Jeffree Star Bloodlust palette, which I've been really into this palette recently. I think it's such a good palette. For this look today, I guess it's just kind of like a purple, pink, kind of like red kind of look. But anyways, yeah, so to begin this, the first brush that I'm going to be using is just like a fluffy kind of crease brush. I feel like brushes like this are just really good like for applying makeup right into your crease area. And yeah, so the color that I'm first going to be using is this kind of like deep purple shade called Blood Queen. So to do this, I'm just gonna kind of like begin going into my crease. I'm just kind of lightly applying this. And always just kind of like keep adding more and like building that up. Also just kind of like the less pressure you apply sometimes, like the more, I guess, helpful that can be like for blending. Also kind of holding your brush closer to the back, which I sometimes really forget to do, but that kind of helps, I guess. And then when you're trying to kind of just get like more pigment and more color, just kind of like going in for it more and like pressing in more, then that kind of helps you get that. But when you're blending, I guess sometimes just kind of going like lightly. You can always add more as opposed to like, sometimes when you add too much, it's like you can't really like go back. All right, so now I feel like we have a good amount of purple like in there. This is a brush that you also, I guess, can use around the crease, but you can also just use it like for blending on your lid, like really just anything. So this brush is just kind of like a fluffy wonder brush. This one for me is the JS12. So this brush I just like love using for like getting in the crease, also kind of like blending in my lid and stuff. So I'm gonna be taking that same Blood Shade Queen and also just kind of beginning to go on the outer part of my eye. And just kind of also lightly blending that outward. I'm also going to be taking that a bit into like the inner corner of my eye, placing that down there. And if it looks kind of messy, like don't worry, because like we're gonna like blend that out and everything. So next thing I'm going to be doing is taking like another kind of like fluffy brush here. This one that I'm using is the JS9 brush. And this one I just really like using for kind of like blending my shadows out and, you know, kind of just like softening things and things like that. Or also just kind of like blending different colors together, which is kind of what I'm going to do today. Hopefully you guys like get an idea. It's just kind of like a fluffy kind of like blender brush. Using this brush, I'm gonna go into the shade Bleeding Heart, which is this really pretty red color. I really love this color. And I'm just gonna kind of start blending that above where I put the purple. Just kind of take that right on top and kind of like lightly just go like back and forth. I'm also just gonna be taking a bit of a lighter purple called Deviant right there. Just gonna like dip that right in. And also kind of like in the inner portion of my eye, I'm just gonna kind of like lighten things a bit and blend that where I kind of put the red right over there. A lot of it I feel like it's just kind of about blending and just kind of taking your time with things. So I'm just kind of going back into the purple also and just really trying to make sure that I keep that purple in there as well. So I'm just kind of lightly continuing to blend the purple with the red. So then I'm going to be taking a flat brush here. With this flat brush, I think these are so good for kind of like packing on eyeshadow and just getting like really good like color payoff with shadows and everything. So with that, I'm going to be going actually for kind of like the center of my lid. I'm going to be going into the shade Bleeding Heart. Another thing you can also do is for a color like this, or also for like shimmery metallic-y shades a lot of time I find like when you use those like with your finger, just kind of putting it like directly on your lid and just kind of patting it on, like look at that. You get like really, really good like color payoff. Alright, next thing I'm going to be doing is putting eyeshadow on my lower lash line. It's going to be pretty simple. There's different types of brushes you can use to do this really. Like a lot of time I'll use like a smaller, more detailed brush too, which I'm also going to end up using. With this one, this is just kind of a fluffier kind of flat brush. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm so sorry if you can't. But you'll see kind of like the bottom of it there is kind of like flat. So I feel like kind of like when I'm doing like my lower lash line, sometimes this brush can be a really big help. And to begin this, I'm going to be going back into Blood Queen. And then I'm kind of just going to begin like putting this right below my lower lash line. Also want to make sure I like connect it to where those top shadows are, because I just kind of feel like that always just makes things look like better. Alright, so next brush, this is actually the one I was just talking about, is kind of just like a smaller, more like detail brush. And this I feel like can just be really great for, you know, doing like more things where they need more like close detail. And also like on your lower lash line, this is definitely a brush that I use a lot that I think can just be like really helpful. I'm also gonna actually just kind of like blend a bit with this one too. I already have like a good amount of color, but still. So, and then after that, I'm gonna be going back into Bleeding Heart. And then I'm just gonna go back in one more time with Blood Queen, which I think like also having shadows like this palette, and I find like, you know, there's definitely palettes that like just are really easy to work with and blend together. That definitely also helps. Like I definitely feel like these colors are very like easy to work with, which is nice. With some looks and stuff, I would like to use a black. I'm gonna be taking a bit of the shade Executioner. I just kind of think like sometimes taking like a darker color kind of finds you can give your eye like kind of some nice depth and stuff. I'm kind of just gonna take this and start like packing that a bit on like the outer part of my eye. This is like a very pigmented, really good black. So I'm not gonna use like too much of it. I'm just gonna kind of like put it on a bit, like going in my crease towards the outer part a bit. And I'm also actually going to be taking another brush, which this is just kind of another blender brush. This is a JS6 brush. This is just kind of a brush that you can really just use like for blending and things like that, and it's really good for that stuff. So I'm just going to kind of like where I put the black, just kind of go in there with this different blender brush now and just kind of work on like blending that out a bit. Gonna blend it with some of the purple too, just like make everything flow nicely together. I think a lot of time kind of having like a shiny color or kind of like metallic-y light shade or just like whatever. You know, I feel like there's a lot of different things you can do with your inner corner. For me today, I'm gonna be using the shade Wet Jewel, which is like this gorgeous pink metallic shade. I'm just kind of gonna take that a little bit towards my inner corner and just kind of start like placing that there. And this I just feel like looks really nice and kind of gives your eyes almost like a kind of nice like pop or whatever. I don't know. And then also like below my brow bone, I'll typically like to use some makeup there too. So today I'm going to be taking some of Deviant. I just feel like that's kind of like a lighter color that works really well with these colors too. And I'm using a small brush to just kind of try to avoid going into those colors too much. If you do end up going into those colors, you can always like, you know, take other brushes or this brush even and just kind of start using some of those other colors and blending those out again just to like keep them like visible and everything. And then I'm also gonna be taking a bit of Wet Jewel. I just kind of feel like it's having like a pretty kind of like shimmery shade, like really nice below your brow bone. Now I'm gonna be moving on to eyeliner, which is also definitely another one of my favorite parts of makeup. I always will also like to put some liner on my lower lash line, and I feel like with like eyeliner on your waterline, there's just a lot of different things you can do with that. I love like colored ones, and I feel like there's a lot of like fun colors you can do and stuff. You can use like white to make your eyes look bigger. You can use black for kind of like a cool, more like edgy look kind of. So yeah, but for today, I'm gonna be using one of my ColourPop liners. I really love the ColourPop pencil liner. Today, I'm gonna be using a ColourPop liner called Boots, which this is just a really pretty kind of pink purple, kind of like magenta-y shade. Alright, so hopefully you guys could see what I'm doing there. Now I just put some of that like really pretty magenta-y shade like right on my lash line, so there you go. Next thing I'm gonna be doing is my eyeliner. I really like to do a lot of like winged liner and things like that. And to do that, what I actually use is a brush that can be used as a eyeliner brush or an eyebrow brush. So that's the kind of brush this is just kind of like an angled eyeliner or eyebrow brush. I think a lot of people like different stuff. Like some people like liquid eyeliner. I love gel liner. I just feel like gel I have like a very easy time applying. So what I'm using is an Anastasia. They make like the best liner in my opinion, like I love it. I'm using this in the shade Jet. I'll kind of start like near the inner corner of my eye actually. I always want to make sure I don't have too much like excess on the brush, so if I do, sometimes I'll just kind of use a tissue to avoid that happening. And then like what I'll do is I'll just kind of begin drawing this on. I will start even like starting with a kind of thick line because I do like doing like pretty heavy liner. I try to like not go too crazy at first because like you can always add more. And I just kind of like will continue drawing this line out. I guess this is where things get like a little bit more complicated. So I'm gonna begin the wing, but hopefully I'm gonna try to make this as easy for you guys as I can. So I'll just kind of like dip my brush back into there. Kind of where I see like my waterline ending, I'll kind of start trying to almost like continue where that line would lead and just kind of like drawing outwards. I don't try to go too high up, but I definitely also don't try to go down so it looks like droopy or anything. Every so often I'll also like just grab a tissue and try to just like keep this like sharp, you know? I'm also just gonna try to connect that now like kind of where I kind of began that point. Kind of like look upward because that way I feel like I just get a better view of like where the line's gonna be and then just try to connect that back to the lid. And this is a different kind of eyeliner brush. It's kind of just more of like a sharp tip kind of there kind of thing. It's like just like a different type of eyeliner brush that I'm also going to be using. Sometimes I use this brush also to line more on like my lid or like just on like the main line. Something I like to do a lot of the time is like line kind of like my inner corner. I'll kind of take this, I'll kind of like continue kind of like looking upward. So I'll kind of just start trying to like draw a line, like connect it to that line, kind of just going next to that in the same direction. I'll kind of take it a bit downward too and just kind of connect it to my waterline. I'll take off some of the excess like as I'm doing this to try to like keep this from, you know, not looking like perfect. So I'll kind of do that also like as I'm doing this like process to just kind of trying to keep this like as sharp as I can and as looking as like perfect as I can. And I'll also just kind of try to match this really closely with my other eye, hopefully. Now, next thing I'm gonna be doing is mascara. My lashes are very like naturally straight, so I always like to curl them. So I'm taking this Shuimura eyelash curler here, and I'm just gonna kind of like grab on to my top lashes and just kind of like curl them basically. And now I'm gonna be taking mascara. Mine is the Armani Eyes to Kill. And I like this one because like for me, where I have like a very straight natural lash, I like that this will kind of just like keep them from falling down and keep them curled. So what I'll do is just kind of like go towards the root of the lash and just kind of start going through them. Also with like the tips, I'll kind of like to take like, you know, kind of like the side of this basically, and just kind of like really try to emphasize on that, to just try to make them look as long as possible. And I'm also going to be putting mascara on my bottom lashes. I basically just kind of do the same thing. And just try to like, you know, do that thing where like I kind of try to get more on the tips. Just kind of make them look as long and thick as I can. Alright, and then another thing that I'll also do sometimes, I don't really feel that I need to today really. Like it looks like I didn't really get too much mascara in my waterline. But sometimes like if I do find that I'll do that, then what I do is I just kind of take like my same liner and I'll just kind of go over the waterline again to make sure that it is still like, you know, like visible there. And yeah, it's pretty easy to fix. So for lip makeup today, I think to just kind of like go with this look, I think this will look good. I'm going to be using the Jeffree Star shade, Berries on Ice. Kind of another random tip is like sometimes you can kind of like combine colors. With this, I'm also actually going to take a little bit of the shade Clout, which is another Jeffree color, and I'm just going to kind of put that a little bit kind of like on the center of my lip. And then I'll just kind of like blend that in to Berries on Ice a bit. And you see it just kind of is cool. It just kind of gives your lip like some more dimension kind of. And something that I'll also like to do like with lipsticks and stuff is sometimes put like a gloss over them. And yeah, glosses I feel like can just have like a lot of cool effects and stuff. Like you could also just wear them by themselves if you want to do that also. I feel like glosses can definitely just kind of like make your lips look a lot like shinier sometimes. They could also just kind of like have different cool effects on them, whether they change the color a little bit or just like whatever. So what I'm gonna be using today is another Jeffree shade. This one is Sorcery. This one, I really love this shade. I think it has kind of like almost a duochrome effect. Like it looks pink, right? It is like, but it's also kind of blue. See, this can just kind of like bring your lip to like a new level. Something that can be really helpful, especially if you're like finding that your makeup isn't lasting, is using a setting spray. This one that I'm using today is one of my favorites. It is the Urban Decay All Nighter, and I'm just gonna kind of take a couple of sprays of this on my face. And what that should do is just kind of like ensure that your makeup lasts and stays put on your face after you put like all that effort in putting your makeup on. Also, oh my gosh guys, so I'm so sorry. This is really like a pretty awkward time to be telling you guys this, where I pretty much already like finished most of my makeup. One thing I kind of forgot to do when I was doing my eye makeup. This is like optional and you definitely obviously don't have to do it, but something that I like to do sometimes is just like take a little bit of foundation or concealer or something and then take like a kind of smaller like sponge blender, whatever you want to call it, and then I would just kind of like go near my eye where it looks like I kind of have like some some extra eyeshadow and just kind of like clean that up. I just find it could sometimes make your look like a lot like cleaner and like neater kind of depends like what kind of look you're doing, but it's something that you can do. It can also kind of help if you mess up like your wing eyeliner or anything like that. And see, then it's all cleaned up there. Alright guys, and now that is pretty much like the finished look here. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope that this video could have been helpful if you're somebody that's kind of like wanting to like begin makeup. And again guys, I really hope that it's like okay that I made this video because like I said, I'm definitely not a professional or anything like that. You know, like I said, I was kind of getting like some requests to do a video like this, and I thought it could be cool to maybe try to do a video for people that are kind of like beginning makeup and just kind of wanting some like beginning tips and stuff. Right, well, I will see you guys in my next video, and I love you guys so much. If you guys want to know when I post new videos, if you want to, you of course don't have to, but if you want to, then you can subscribe, and then you should know like when I post new videos and stuff. Alright, well, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in my next video, I guess. Bye!